It is my honor and pleasure to welcome to the stage the first female Thunderbird pilot, Nicole Malachowski.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I appreciate that welcome. Good afternoon, LifeWave. Woo! You all are a high energy crowd. I actually flew in yesterday, and the second the doors to the hotel opened, you could just feel the positivity, you could feel the energy, you could feel the friendship of this network here, and I'm just absolutely delighted to be joining you. And so when I checked in last night, they gave me a key to my room, which was on the 7th floor. And of course, the first thing I like to do when I get to a hotel room is immediately drop my bags and go to the window to see the view. Do you ever do that? Yeah, and there was that big supermoon out last night. So I was gonna see if I could find it. So I get to my room, drop my bags, go to the window, throw the shears aside, and immediately I jump back. I'm hit with two thoughts. The first, I totally forget I am petrified of heights. It's true. I know I'm a pilot, but I'm afraid of heights. So I jump back from that 7th floor window, and the second feeling I have is, what in the world am I doing here? Have you ever walked into a room or a situation and thought, what in the world am I doing here? I'm thinking to myself, what in the world does an old washed-up fighter pilot and a harried mother of 14-year-old twins, right, possibly have that she can impart on a bunch of professionals here at LifeWave that work in health technology? And you might be asking yourself the same question, and that's okay. But as I was preparing for this event, talking to the LifeWave team, learning about all of you, there was a certain theme that kept coming up over and over again, and it went something like this. In 20 years, this is the best group of brand partners we've ever had. This is gonna be the best event of the year. We are slated to have our best year yet. And it was, I think in those words, the best, that kept coming up over and over again when talking about all of you. Now, sometimes people look at my background as a fighter pilot, as an American Air Force Thunderbird pilot, and they'll look at me with a straight face and literally ask, Nicole, what's it like to be the best? And when I get asked that, I laugh and I laugh. Because I can assure you, I, Nicole Malachowski, have never individually been the best at anything that I've ever done. But I have been a part of some of the best teams. And I learned over time that these best teams have a certain set of characteristics, a certain mindset. And it's what I like to call the pushing the envelope mindset, which is what I'm going to talk to all of you about today. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to someone very important to me. All right? Feast your eyes on that. Oh, that's my jet. I know. Thank you, taxpayers of America. That's the mighty F-15E Strike Eagle. That's the jet I flew in 3 fighter squadrons. I commanded a squadron of F-15Es. That is the jet that took me and my friends safely in and out of the sky more times than I could count. She is a beast, and yes, it's a she, all right? You know, and you've all heard this term, pushing the envelope, before. It comes from aviation. It's all about taking the aircraft to its maximum performance. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. She's capable of flying upwards of 50,000 feet, pulling 9 times the force of gravity, and flying twice the speed of sound. It's extraordinary, right? And one of the greatest joys of my career was teaching brand new pilots, brand new lieutenants, how to fly and employ that aircraft. And every time I take a new pilot up on their first flight, they do the exact same thing. They would fly that beautiful piece of technology at 20,000 feet, 250 miles an hour, and pull 2 Gs. Like, what a waste, right? What a waste of extraordinary capability. And so as I talk to you today, I want you to think of yourself as that aircraft. The individual teams you're leading back home as that aircraft. LifeWave, writ large, as that aircraft. The pushing the envelope mindset says, am I bringing all of myself to work every day? And importantly, am I creating an environment where everybody around me on this team can bring the best of themselves as well? And I found over time that this pushing the envelope mindset requires 3 distinct traits, and those traits are courage, trust, and vulnerability. None of those surprise you. But what I hope to do today is share a few stories from across my flying career to give you a slightly different lens or a slightly different paradigm to look at how you can push the envelope across 2024 and beyond. But before we do that, I thought we would watch a flying video because flying videos are cool. That's right. And there is an expectation that the fighter pilot will show up with a flying video. So I'm going to check that square, but there's actually a point to this video. If you look on the screen there, that's actually me you see in the cockpit. That's a different jet called the F-16 Fighting Falcon, painted in the red, white, and blue colors of the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. Yeah! How many of you have actually seen the Air Force Thunderbirds fly? Woohoo! All right. And I know we're joined by a very wonderful international audience today, so I know there's so many countries out there with their own individual demonstration teams, and I want to acknowledge that. Now, how many of you have been to an air show of any kind? Yes, okay, that's awesome. So when you go to an air show or the air show comes to town, it's exciting, right? It's on television, it's in the newspaper, it's a patriotic event, it's a family event. People are excited, right? There's funnel cake and warm beer, like people are happy. And I get asked a lot, Nicole, what was the best part about being a Thunderbird pilot? And they think I'm going to say the flying or the travel or all the famous people and celebrities I met, but none of those are the answer. When people ask me, Nicole, what's the best part about being the Thunderbird? The answer is this. The best part would happen after we landed. So we would do loops to music for 30 minutes, we would land, and we would walk over to the autograph line or the audience, where we would sign autographs, answer questions, chat, take selfies, all of that. And it was really odd to me because in the 2 years I flew air shows, there was a certain theme that always came up from the audience, always from adults, never from kids. People would look at me with a straight face and be like, wow, you're a fighter pilot, that's cool. You're an Air Force Thunderbird pilot, that's elite. Then they'd look at me like I'd grown a third eye. You're a woman Thunderbird pilot, like I don't even know what to say about that. And then with a straight face, people would literally say things like, Nicole, you must be different than the rest of us. Nicole, you must somehow be naturally gifted. My personal favorite. Nicole, the path in front of you must have just been smooth. Woo! And I would smile and demur because I think they were trying to pay me a compliment. But inside, I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me, right? The path for me to get to the cockpit of that red, white, and blue F-16 was littered with twists, turns, bumps, bruises, mistakes, and failures all along the way. So the lesson that I learned a long time ago that I want to share with you today is this. The path to success for any individual or for any team will always be nonlinear. The path to success will always be nonlinear. So this video was taken my first year on the team, way back in 2006. It's 1.5 minutes long, and 50% of the in-cockpit video comes from inside my jet. So it's your chance to fly as American Air Force Thunderbird number 3. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Woo! Thank you. I do miss the flying. It was a lot of fun, but what is more fun is standing on stage and watching all your faces when those 4 jets cross over, right? And I'll answer the question that's on your mind. We pass with 1,000 miles per hour of closure at about 32 feet apart, which is less than the width of the screen you see here to my right. Courage, trust, and vulnerability in action. A very visual depiction, I think, of what I mean by pushing the envelope. So let's talk a little bit about this trait of courage, what it takes to push the envelope in your personal life and in your professional life. Let me ask, have you ever had a dream or a goal that was so big, so complex, so gnarly, the idea of actually going after it makes you get a knot in your stomach and the voice in your head that says that dream is too big for you? Maybe you have an idea that would completely innovate how LifeWave does business, but you're thinking, I don't want to share that idea because I don't want to go against the status quo. I don't want to be the guy that rocks the boat. I think we've all had moments like that. I had a dream growing up as a little kid to one day grow up and become an Air Force Thunderbird pilot. It's hard enough to become a fighter pilot. It's even harder to become an Air Force Thunderbird pilot. For context, in the American active duty Air Force today, there's 12,000 pilots. Of those, 2,000 are fighter pilots, and of those 6, only 6 have a chance of ever becoming an Air Force Thunderbird. It's statistically improbable. Anybody, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. But it's statistically improbable, right, that anybody becomes a Thunderbird, but obviously it's not impossible. But this idea of me actively pursuing this dream, no way. Every time I thought about it, the voice in my head would say this: other people become Thunderbird pilots, Nicole, not you. And so I kept that dream inside. I went about becoming a fighter pilot, flying that beautiful F-15E Strike Eagle you saw earlier, doing my job out around the world. And every year, the American Air Force sends an email to all its fighter pilots that says the same thing. Comes at the same time every year. It says, we're looking for 3 new Thunderbird pilots. It's a 2-year assignment, so 3 pilots are new, 3 pilots experienced on their 2nd year. It says, we're looking for 3 new Thunderbird pilots. Here's the qualifications, here's the application. And even though I was qualified, and even though it had been my dream since I was a child, every year I would do the same thing. Ding, into the inbox. I would read the email, and then I would delete. Delete, delete, delete. Other people become Thunderbird pilots, Nicole, not you. Until about 2005. I've been a fighter pilot about 8 years. I found myself with every single certification and qualification you could have as a frontline fighter pilot, and ding, into the inbox came that dang email. And for whatever reason, as I read it that year, a light went on in my mind and in my heart. And as I read that email, I thought to myself, why not me? Why not me? And I went to bed and I tossed and I turned and I thought about this dream. Thank you. And I woke up that next day, and with all the energy and courage I could muster, the voice in my head saying, don't do it, I walked into the work and I spoke my dream out loud. I told my peers, my colleagues, my supervisors, my chain of command, I'm applying to be a Thunderbird. And generally speaking, initially, people were very supportive. I was tickled. I appreciated the support, but as the days went by and they had time to think about it, if I earned $1 for every time I heard this, you know, Nicole, it's hard to become a Thunderbird. You know, Nicole, you probably won't get picked. You know, Nicole, they've never had a woman Thunderbird pilot before. Are you sure you want to do that? Over and over and over, I heard the same things, but I said, no, Nicole, stay focused. Put this application together. A big, detailed application, as you might imagine for a job like that. A picture of me in uniform, a letter of why I wanted to be a Thunderbird, all of my career-long HR or performance reports, all of my annual career-long flying test, or what we call check ride scores. But the thing that was weighted the most, the thing that counted the most in this application was a letter of recommendation from the first full bird colonel in my chain of command. Now, I am a 30-year-old young captain here. At that time, a full bird colonel? That was high ranking. That was intimidating. A colonel was a big deal. I'm now a retired full bird colonel, and I can assure you we're not a big deal, we're a dime a dozen. But I thought, I'll draft the letter for him. All I have to do is draft this letter, I'll take it in, and I'll get his signature. So I put this application together, and I remember this day like it was yesterday. The whole application together, the letter I had drafted for him, with all the courage I could muster, I walked into work, into his office, slid the application across the desk to his staff, and said, I'm applying to be a Thunderbird. And I'll never forget it. The gentleman on the staff looked right at me and said, you know, Nicole, it's hard to be a Thunderbird. You know, Nicole, you probably won't get picked. You know, Nicole, we've never had a woman Thunderbird pilot before. And the colonel only has one recommendation he's allowed to give. So we're not sure we want to waste it. Boom, right? Imagine how you would feel standing there, right? I felt sucker punched, the wind taken out of my sails. And in that moment, here's what happened. I reached across the desk, I grabbed my application, and I removed it. I almost never became a Thunderbird pilot at all. I removed my application, I looked at him, and I said, you're right. I am so sorry for having bothered you. And I walked out feeling embarrassed and ashamed. Other people become Thunderbird pilots, Nicole, not you. And I did what any self-respecting fighter pilot would do at that time. I went across the street to the officers' club and I grabbed a beer. So I'm over there drinking my beer, talking to the guys about the day's flying, thinking, thank goodness I didn't put myself out there. Thank goodness I didn't risk failure. Who were you, Nicole, to think you could be a Thunderbird pilot? And as I'm sitting there talking to the guys, a door over here opens up about the distance from that wall, and in walks the wing commander. Now, the wing commander is a brigadier general, a general. Super intimidating to a young captain. He's 6'5". He walks over, he's standing way up here, he looks down at me. He makes small talk with me to this day. I have no idea why he came over to talk to me, and I don't really recall what we were talking about. I just know I was intimidated. So he's talking to me, I'm talking to him, and in that moment, over walks my immediate supervisor, a guy by the name of Dan Debris, call sign Trash. Trash Debris. That's where call signs come from, okay? So Trash comes over all excited. He says, General, did you know Nicole's applying to be a Thunderbird? I'm thinking, oh, no. Neither of them knew I had decided to remove my application. In that moment, the general looks way down at me, and he goes, that's great, Nicole. How's your application going? I took a swig of my beer. I looked way up at him, and I said, you know, sir, it's hard to be a Thunderbird. You know, sir, I probably won't get picked. You know, sir, they haven't had a woman before, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. Everything everyone else had said had taken up room in my own head and was now coming out of my own mouth, that voice of self-doubt. And in that moment, General Mark Matthews gave me one of the single greatest pieces of advice, and I want you to remember this the next time you're nervous about dreaming big, the next time you've got that innovative idea, but you're a little hesitant. I want you to remember this. He looked down at me, put his hand on my shoulder, looked me in the eye, and said, Nicole, nobody wants to lead a scripted life. Nobody wants to lead a scripted life. And with those words, he took the weight of the world off my shoulders. He was telling me it's okay to dream big. It's okay to go against the status quo. It's okay to take some risk when you're pursuing personal and professional growth. And it's not so much he's telling you and me to write ourselves into the script. Hear what he was saying. Don't you ever write yourself out of the script. And as friends and teammates and leaders in here, don't ever write anybody else or their wild ideas out of the script either. Nobody wants to lead a scripted life. And it's a reminder, too, of talent management. Where are you looking for talent and ideas as you grow your teams and as you network? Because I guarantee you, nobody saw me coming or anybody like me, right? Thank you. Nobody wants to lead a scripted life. And I get asked a lot, Nicole, did you ever get the letter of recommendation from the colonel? No, I did not. But I did get the letter of recommendation from a general, so. Let's talk a little bit about this trait of trust, the type of trust you need to push the envelope as an individual and to take your teams to that next level of performance, right? So I go through this application process. I get picked as one of 6 elite Thunderbird pilots. I'm at the height of my qualifications and certifications. I am super excited to show up to that base on the very first day. I want to go fly, right? And I remember walking onto the base, this giant, beautiful red, white, and blue hangar. I walk in super excited, 30 years old, fighter pilot, Thunderbird. I walked in and I said, "Hi, I'm Nicole Malachowski. I'm ready to go fly." And I was met with nothing but silent stares by all the people in the hangar. I thought, well, maybe they didn't hear me. I said, "Hi, I'm Nicole Malachowski. You know, people are going to go to air shows to watch me fly. I'm ready to go fly." And I'll never forget, this senior enlisted gentleman looked right at me with a straight face and said, quote, "You don't get to touch our jet until I say you can." End quote. Woo, rough first day on the job, right? I walked back, I kind of looked at him. He says, "You don't get to touch our jet until you get to know each and every one of us, our names, our spouses' names, our kids' names, our hometowns, our hobbies. Further, you, Miss Pilot, need to go do a little mini internship with every single other career function on this team so you have a better understanding of where you fit into this highly interdependent puzzle. So you have a better understanding how if you don't do your job to the highest level of excellence, it impacts us, and how if we don't do our job to the highest standards, it impacts you." You see, the Thunderbirds were 125 people from 25 different career functions who came together to make that elite mission happen, and all it took was one of us, just one, not doing our job to that highest expected standard of excellence, and that entire elite mission would fall apart. The Thunderbirds taught me a very valuable lesson very early on, and it is this: nothing of significance is ever accomplished alone. Nothing of significance is ever accomplished alone. And I will tell you something I just learned about LifeWave over the last few weeks and the last few months. I've been hanging out doing reconnaissance in the atrium and at the bar. I talked to some of you. Yeah, I did. You know, what you do is significant. You empower people to live in the light. You help people maximize their human potential, right? We live well and young. I mean, like, you guys are phenomenal. What you do is you help people physically, mentally, and I even say spiritually. What you do is significant. And it takes all of you moving in the same direction to get this mission done. Nothing of significance is ever accomplished alone. And for 3 weeks, I didn't fly. Ugh, torture for a pilot. I turned wrenches with the crew chiefs under the jet. I learned about the budget, public affairs. I learned about logistics. And after 3 weeks of no flying and learning about everyone else, then and only then did they let me touch that jet. And I remember that first day I went flying. I walked out into that bright sun on that hot Las Vegas, Nevada day, because that's where the Air Force Base is. Yeah, Vegas. Walked out into that hot Las Vegas sun, out to that red, white, and blue F-16, super excited, and I start to do the walk around. The walk around is the first thing a pilot does before they go fly. They're checking to make sure the aircraft is safe and airworthy. You've seen your airline pilots do it. You look out the window and she is walking around making sure the wings didn't fall off overnight, there isn't a fuel or an oil leak. I've been flying since I was 12. I've been a fighter pilot for 8 years. Instinctually, it's the first thing I do. I start to do that walk around, and as I approach the jet, I'm met by these 2 crew chiefs. Nate on the left. He jumps between me and the jet, puts his hand up and goes, "Ma'am, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing my walk around like I always do." He says, "Oh, no, ma'am, you don't do that here. We do it. I'm trained to do it. I've already done the walk around. The aircraft is safe and airworthy. Get in." I'm looking at him thinking, who are you? How am I supposed to trust you with my life? And then Dave on the right, he kind of ups the ante. He says, "Not only do we pre-flight your aircraft for you, ma'am, we pre-flight all of your life support equipment as well," as in my life. He says, "We pre-flight your G-suit, your harness, your helmet, your ejection seat, ma'am. I've already done that. The aircraft is safe and airworthy. Get in." Now, if I'm being honest, I'm looking at these 2 great professionals, these 2 great Americans, and I feel nothing but a knot in my stomach and a feeling of resentment towards my own teammates. Who are you? I just met you. How am I supposed to trust you with my life? Why do things have to be different? I've always done it this way. You ever felt like that when change comes along? Yeah, and day after day I came out to fly during training season, and I'd always feel that way. And then about 2 months into this 3-month-long training program, I walked out into that hot Las Vegas sun, and Nate was down on his hands and knees, sweating through his uniform, dripping sweat down his brow, polishing the wheel well of this F-16 to the finest detail. And it hit me as I looked at him. He takes as much pride in doing his job as I do. He takes as much pride in doing his job as I do. The next time you're working in that team environment, maybe you've got a little bit of tension, and you're kind of having one of those moments. I want you to remember this story. Pause, take a deep breath, step back, afford that teammate a moment of grace, and look at them and think to yourself, they take as much pride in doing their job as I do. And Dave on the right, he had a really, really important job. He was 6'6" tall, 250 pounds. I would climb into the cockpit. He would climb up the ladder, look down at me, and his job was to strap me into my ejection seat. Think about that. Dave Batterson, the only thing standing between life or death should something catastrophic happen to me in the aircraft. Dave would climb up that ladder. He would strap me into the ejection seat. He would check those connections. I would double check. He was checking those connections, right? And he started doing this cool thing. Before he went down the ladder, he would reach out his hand to me, and we would clasp hands. And he would yell at me very enthusiastically, "Rock and roll, 3. Rock and roll, that meant have a good flight. 3, that was me, my name, my position on the team. And day after day, we did this. About 2 months into this training program, I had another trust aha moment. He climbed up the ladder, he strapped me in, "Rock and roll, 3. And for the first time ever in my 8 years as a professional fighter pilot, I looked up at my crew chief and spontaneously said, "Thanks for letting me borrow your jet. Thanks for letting me borrow your jet." Now, how is it I had gone my entire career as a professional fighter pilot and I had never stopped to acknowledge and show gratitude to the very people who enabled and empowered and resourced me to do what I do every day? When was the last time you stopped as brand partners at LifeWave with your teams, as people back home with your families and communities, to acknowledge and show gratitude to all those who enable and empower and resource you to do what you do? A lot of times we think this, there you go. And a lot of times we think this appreciation has to come in the form of these giant superior performer awards or the annual awards gala, and I know there's some award winners in here, and that's important. We need to do that. But what I'm talking about here are those small moments, those day-to-day appreciation that says, "I see you, I appreciate you." Maybe it's those words, a quick email, a phone call, my personal favorite, a handwritten note. Because it's in these moments of simple and daily appreciation that trust on a team is built. And with trust, you will get loyalty. And with loyalty, I promise you will always get increased measures of performance. And I want to pause right now to show you how it's done. Appreciation is simple. I'm on a stage in front of 1,000 new friends right now. Thanks to the amazing AV production team that you don't see behind the scenes and sitting over there. I want to say thank you to them. Thank you. Let's give them a hand. And you know who else is working really hard right now? The 11 foreign language and our ASL's translators up here. So let's give it up for the 12 translators today. I see these translators. I appreciate these translators. My friends, it is that easy. Take the time to acknowledge and show appreciation. Now, one of the things, if you can go back a slide to the six jets there, one of the things that I loved the most, of course, was, let's see, there we go, the formation here. This is called the Delta Formation. It's the only time in the show that all 6 jets get together. It's my favorite formation. Think about it, 6 jets flying at 500 feet, 500 miles an hour, upside down, 3 feet away from each other. It is extraordinary. And I had never flown with these 5 other pilots before. They were just regular fighter pilots who got picked through the same hard process. We got picked, crammed together, and told to go do this. Right? It's pretty extraordinary. Earlier today, I was talking to one of your brand partners here. Her name's Jerry. I can see her over there. Jerry from North Carolina. Hey, Jerry. Jerry and I were talking. It's kind of like, "Hi, Jerry. Nice to meet you. Let's go fly at 500 feet, 500 miles an hour, upside down, 3 feet away from each other. Are you in?" Right? That's asking a lot. And the number one question I would get asked was about this formation. And the number one question people would ask me was this: "Nicole, what does it take to build that level of trust?" What a fantastic question. Nicole, what does it take to build that level of trust? And people think I'm going to say, well, we have a training syllabus. It's 3 months long. just like you have training programs when you bring people into LifeWave. They think I'm going to say, well, there's certain process and procedure, minimum altitudes, maximum airspeeds, just like I'm sure you have process and procedure at LifeWave. They think I'm going to say something like, I don't know, like there's certain certifications and qualifications you need as a fighter pilot to do this, just like there's certifications and qualifications and different levels of experience at LifeWave. And all of those things are true, but none of them get to the heart of the answer. When people ask me, Nicole, what does it take to build that level of trust? The answer is this. You build trust by being trustworthy. You build trust by being trustworthy. A lot of times on teams, and I know I have done this, so I'll be vulnerable. A lot of times on teams, right, we look at people and we go, I'm not sure I can trust that guy. That gal, she needs to prove to me that I can trust her. I could do it faster if I just did it myself. You ever felt that way? Yeah. I'm here to say elite performing people like you, the elite teams that you're leading, LifeWave, think of trust differently than that. Trust doesn't come to you from other people on a team. Trust emanates outward from your actions, your decisions, and your behaviors. You build trust by being trustworthy. Each and every one of you in here called to a very specific role. I was Thunderbird number 3, right wing. You got the leader there at the top, David Schmidt, right? Setting the vision, setting the direction, setting the speed. Each and every one of you, his wingman, fulfilling a role. I was immediately down into his right, number 3. I had to be the best number 3 I could be, each and every one of you, fulfilling a role because of your unique strengths, your unique skill sets, your unique experience levels. If I was sick, that spot went empty. If my jet was broke, that spot went empty. It's not as simple as just swapping the right wing to the left wing position. Those are two completely different skill sets and maneuvers. I had to be the best number 3 I could be, and I had to let my teammates do the same. All of you given a certain level of accountability and responsibility. I was given a 3-foot bubble of accountability and responsibility, right? I could go up and down 3 feet, left and right 3 feet, forward and aft 3 feet, and as long as I did that and everyone else on my team did that, that's how that formation came together, in alignment. Everyone going in the same direction behind the leader, plus or minus 1 degree of heading, plus or minus 1 to 2 knots of airspeed. You build trust by being trustworthy. You need to be so good, so dependable, so reliable, that if anybody on your individual team across LifeWave writ large, and most importantly, one of your customers or clients has a question about what it is you do, you want them to instinctually pick up that phone and call you. You build trust by being trustworthy. Now, there's something else I think about when I look at this formation. It's the last thing an American Air Force fighter pilot says to their wingman before we go fly. And I don't care if it's in training, in combat, or an air show. The last thing I say to my wingman as a leader as we step out to the jets is this: when in doubt, always honor the wingman contract. When in doubt, always honor the wingman contract. What do I mean by that? Those 2 words, wingman contract, that phrase means everything to an American Air Force fighter pilot. It is our unspoken bond and promise to each other. It is the gentleman's handshake and the gentlewoman's agreement that says this is who we are. And under this wingman contract, I promise that I have expectations of your professional behavior. We have expectations of each other's standards of performance. And under this contract, I promise you, I will hold myself accountable to that contract. And out of caring and compassion for you as a teammate and a shared commitment to what you're trying to do as a team, I promise to hold you accountable to the contract too. The wingman contract, my friends, is the culture. And a lot of times when we bring up that culture, sometimes it feels a little nebulous. I'm here to say the culture is everything. It's that foundational agreement you have in LifeWave, whether you're serving in Texas or and out there in Ireland or anywhere in between along this big globe, this big international group you have. You are committed to each other, and you come together at events like this to recommit to that wingman contract. You know, a lot of times on teams, that wingman contract comes in the form of maybe a mission statement, a vision statement, a list of values and principles. We know LifeWave has those. Do you have them on your individual teams? What does it look like? What is that promise? What is the expectation of each other's performance? Have you translated it? Have you committed to it as a team? Is there a way to hold each other accountable? A wingman contract is vital for a team because it applies to everyone equally, from the newest, youngest intern, hire the brand new person, all the way up through all of you, all the way to the CEO, David Schmidt, and everybody in between equally. Why does it matter? Because a wingman contract will enable and empower people at all levels of an organization to make independent, agile decisions at the exact time and place that it's needed that will always be in alignment with where this LifeWave team is going. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to do in alignment with the LifeWave wingman contract? And if it is, move out. And move out with confidence, knowing you're going in the right direction, because we don't have time to call a meeting every time a decision needs to be made. We don't have time to hold another Zoom call or answer another email, right? A wingman contract is about efficiency. It's about empowering your teammates to be agile at the time and place that your customer and clients need it, right? And what is that LifeWave wingman contract? It's in your 4 values, right? It's in your brand pillars. High quality products and innovation, leading with service and social responsibility. And if I have those memorized, you should too, right? Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say or do in alignment with the LifeWave wingman contract, what you are committing to here at these events, and indeed move out with confidence after that? Now, one of the hardest things I had to learn how to do as a Thunderbird pilot was learn to fly like a Thunderbird pilot, because we don't fly like this in the regular Air Force. And we have a 3-month-long training program, and it's crawl to walk to run. Starts out easy, gets harder. So when we started training, we would fly this formation on the left. It was called diamond formation. I loved diamond formation. I was good at diamond formation. I was comfortable in diamond formation. And we would try to learn new maneuvers from diamond formation. We'd try it 10 or 20 times. Light bulb would go on. We would move on with the syllabus, which got harder and harder until I met my nemesis, the formation on the right. I don't even like looking at the picture to this day. I never liked that formation. It's called trail formation. There's 4 aircraft stacked vertically on top of each other. Do you see all 4 aircraft? I am 3rd down from the top. I've got 2 aircraft above me, the closest 3 feet from the top of my canopy, a 4th aircraft underneath me, 3 feet away, who I cannot see, who's 100% dependent on me for his safety. Now, one of the reasons I did not like trail formation is as we are stacked vertically on top of each other, all it takes is one pilot, just one, letting off by 0.1 the force of gravity, and that entire formation can collapse on itself. It is my opinion that that is the formation where both the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels accept the highest level of risk. And we were trying to learn a maneuver from trail called the trail to diamond roll. It's just like it sounds. We're all going to be in trail. We're going to roll to the left. We're going to end up in diamond formation. What you need to know is it's the single hardest maneuver for the number 3 position to fly. Out of sheer aerodynamics, I have to roll more, pull more than anybody else in order to make it happen. In fact, it's so complex, so difficult, so high risk that as of 2 years ago, the Air Force Thunderbirds no longer fly this maneuver. Now, here I am at the height of my career, the height of my qualifications, the height of my skill set, supposedly an elite Thunderbird pilot, and no matter how many times we practiced this maneuver, I couldn't figure it out. It was so frustrating, so hard on my ego. How was this happening to me? Why was this happening to me? What is wrong with me? To top it off, everybody else on the team had it figured out. I was the anchor. I was the failure. I was the one holding the team back from moving on with the training syllabus. We tried this maneuver 30 times, 50 times, 100 times. I couldn't figure it out. I'm going to show you a video of me failing at it during training. Take a look on the screen. There's 4 jets. I'm 3 down from the top, right? I am 3 down from the top. We are not at 3-foot spacing. We are supposed to be at 3-foot spacing, but in this video, we're at about 8 to 10 feet spacing. Why is that? Because I can't figure it out, right? So what's going to happen when I hit play is you're going to see all the jets start to roll to the left. Halfway through the roll, I'm going to fly away from everybody else and do my own air show, all right? I'm going to get 24 to 30 feet away, or 8 to 10 times outside of the standard. So here is me failing and flailing. I hope you enjoy it. You're probably thinking, Nicole, that looked pretty good to me, right? I know, right? But here's the thing. It wasn't good. It was 3, 10, 15, 20 feet well outside of the standard. It was a D plus, C minus effort. I knew it and everybody else on the team knew it. And I remember we went into debrief that day, and as a team, the 5 other pilots looked at me and had a collective exhale. Nicole, we can't waste any more time trying to learn this maneuver. We've already done it way more than we needed to. We have a syllabus we have to get through. We have a month left to learn everything else. We have a graduation date. There's air shows in Dallas that we need to get to. They're on the calendar. We can't waste any more time trying to learn this, Nicole. So instead of flying it at 3 feet, we'll just fly it at 8 feet. Ugh, right? Like a dagger through the heart. Remember, the standard you are willing to walk past is the standard you are willing to accept. And I knew in that moment I was not going to be able to mentally and psychologically get past this failure and weakness of mine. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. I remember taking a deep breath and saying the 3 hardest words in the English language for some reason. I took a deep breath, looked at these 5 other pilots, these great men, and I said, I need help. I need help. What is it about those 3 words that stop us in our tracks? What is it about those 3 words that make us feel so weak and so vulnerable when in fact it's a sign of strength? And in that moment when I said I need help, it was like a big giant red flag to my teammates. They kind of looked at me like, oh, Nicole said the H word, you know? And my teammates stopped. And for the next 2 days, we did only that maneuver over and over and over hundreds of times until I got it right. Because it was the right thing to do by me as a teammate, it was the right thing to do by our wingman contract, and importantly, it was the right thing to do by our customer and client, the audience on the ground who has an expectation of 3 feet of excellence. And I'm happy to say after hundreds of times and 2 straight days of efforts, I figured it out. Take a look on the screen. The bottom right-hand corner is the reflection of my helmet. Look above you, there are 2 aircraft. The closest is now 3 to 4 feet from the top of the canopy. I have a 4th aircraft you cannot see underneath you 3 to 4 feet away who's 100% dependent on you for his safety. Now, one of the reasons I really didn't enjoy the Trail to Diamond roll is if you look at my hands here, as we start to roll to the left, the aircraft above you is going to slide down and to the left, and at that instant, our wingtips will cross at about 12 to 18 inches apart. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you. And it felt good to get it right. It felt good to be vulnerable. That's part of the pushing the envelope mindset. The lesson here for you and me is very simple, my friends. You are never too experienced, too good, too certified, too qualified, too high up in the LifeWave org chart, right? To ask for help when you need it. And it is never beneath any of us in here to offer help, never from a place of judgment or shame, but always from a place of caring and compassion for this brand and a shared commitment to what you are trying to do here. Ask for and offer help. I got one last story to share with you today. It hits on this idea of vulnerability as well. One of the hardest things I had to learn how to do as a Thunderbird pilot was learn to stay in formation when we encountered turbulence. Turbulence being a metaphor for change, turbulence being a metaphor, the headwinds that we all experience in our personal and our professional lives. They are bound to come along, these challenges, right? We all experience them. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Nicole, you just told me you've been flying since you were 12 years old. You'd been a professional fighter pilot for 8 years. Certainly, Nicole, you had flown in turbulence many times. Why is it now a big deal? Well, as my wingman, Jerry, knows, the first time you encounter turbulence at 500 feet, 500 miles an hour, upside down, 3 feet away from 5 other jets, that is indeed an eye-opening moment, trust me, okay? But I thought I'd flown in turbulence many times, so we're in training. We're in my favorite diamond formation. It's a blue sky day. We're walking out to the jets. And as we walk out to the jets, the young weather expert, the young weather airman, he comes running past us. He says, the atmosphere is ripe for turbulence. I thought, okay. You know, as a pilot, I find turbulence fascinating, right? We have weather models that will tell us when the atmosphere is ripe for turbulence, but we can never predict exactly where turbulence will happen, how severe that turbulence will really be, and how long that turbulence will last. Does that sound familiar? That's life, right? But I'm thinking, okay, it's ripe for turbulence. I've flown in turbulence many times, so we're out there flying along. The sky is smooth. I'm having a good time, and boom, we hit that turbulence. And the second we hit it, my whole body tensed up, and instantaneously, I started to grip the stick really hard. And the turbulence would bump and try to force me out of position. So I would put an input in to fight to stay in position. The turbulence would bump again, and I would put in another input. I was trying to fight the turbulence, to control the uncontrollable. And with each input, the input got bigger and bigger and bigger until I got into something called a PIO, or a pilot-induced oscillation. It makes for a very ugly air show. It is impossible for your teammates to fly next to. And in fact, I was making things worse. But isn't that our instincts as human beings when change and headwinds and hardships come along? Do you ever try to resist that change? Do you ever try to control the uncontrollable? I say that's a very inefficient use of your limited time, talent, and treasure. But there I was, fighting the turbulence, fighting to stay in. When we landed that day, I wiped the sweat from my brow, and I remember thinking, thank God I didn't hit anyone. Literally, I thought that. We got into the debrief that day. The pilots looked at me again, exasperated exhale. The number 4 pilot on the team, he's the number 4 pilot right here, all right? He's on his second year. He's the experienced pilot. He's the wise one. He's my instructor. He's also the guy that flies underneath me. His name is Steve Horton, the man that flies underneath me, also known as the man who sees all of my mistakes. He said, Nicole, what were you doing out there? You were all over the place. I couldn't fly next to you. I said, Steve, I was fighting to stay in position. I was fighting the turbulence, Steve. I was doing my best. And I'll never forget this day like it was yesterday. He's still a very good friend of mine. He looked at me with the biggest smirk on his face, and he goes, oh, we forgot to tell you the secret. And I looked at him like, what? And he goes, we forgot to tell you the secret for how to stay in formation when we encounter turbulence. Would you like to know the secret? I looked at him like, yeah, bro, information I could have used yesterday. He says, the secret is this. We promise each other as a team that when any one of us encounters turbulence in our own jet, regardless of what position we fly in, regardless of what formation we're in, regardless of what maneuver we're about to do, when any one of us encounters turbulence in our own jet, we will immediately loosen our grip. The answer, Nicole, is to loosen your grip. Mind blown. The exact opposite of my instincts 3 feet away from other planes as I'm fighting to not hit anybody and to stay in position, and the opposite of our instincts as human beings when change and turbulence comes along. So I went home and I thought about it. Steve Horton, the number 4 pilot, the experienced guy, he must know what he's talking about. The next day we go out. It's a blue sky day, favorite diamond formation. The young weather airman says the atmosphere is ripe for turbulence. I take him a lot more seriously this time. We're out there flying along, and it is all nice and smooth, and finally, boom, we hit that turbulence, and I start to tense up on the stick again. But I thought, no, Steve Horton, he's like the Yoda of the team, like, loosen your grip, you know. And I let go with 1, 2, 3 fingers, and guess what happened? Yeah, I stayed in position. The whole formation stayed in alignment, and eventually we exited the turbulence. Because turbulence doesn't last forever. And the beauty of the whole thing is, our customer and client, the audience on the ground, never even knew. When change and turbulence comes along, remind each other it is okay to loosen your grip. Now, I am not giving you permission to let go of the stick. That is not what I said, right? I'm saying choose to control the things you can control. Proactively choose to be efficient With your limited time, talent, and treasure, it is okay to loosen your grip. Y'all have stuck with me for nearly 50 minutes. The push in the envelope mindset is about harnessing that courage, trust, and vulnerability to take your performance to the next level and to create an environment where everyone on the teams that you're building and this large brand partnership right here in this room to that next level. If you're wondering what it is we talked about, my friends, this is it. The ability to choose an unscripted life, realizing that it takes a team to do the significance of empowering people to live in the light. That is just so freaking cool, right? The power of appreciation and gratitude, trustworthiness coming from your actions, decisions, and behaviors, honoring those LifeWave values in your wingman contract, having the courage to ask for help and the grace to offer it, and reminding each other it's okay to loosen your grip. I'm going to leave you with last photo, my favorite photo from my whole career. I hope that if you guys have questions, if you would like to continue the conversation with me, I would love nothing more. If you want to make me look cool in front of my kids who follow my Instagram follower account, please feel free to follow me on social media. I don't want this to be a one-off transaction. I hope that you will write to me. I hope that you can interact with me on that social media so we can keep this relationship going. I leave you with this last photo. The jet on the left is my husband, Paul. The jet on the right is me. Not a lot of married people have this photo. Paul and I have been married 23 years last week, and I can assure you, thank you. I can assure you our 14-year-old twins are not impressed by this at all. No. But here's what it is, right? Look at that photo. What kind of wingman are you? What kind of wingman do you want to be? Who is your wingman? Look around this room. It's full of your wingman, my friends. I wish you all the very best as you continue to push the envelope and be the light across 2024 and beyond. Thank you.